For this, I guess exercise, we're gonna be doing a working with tidyverse and Dippler and ggplot to compare fantasy football statistics to like NFL real life statistics. Um, so like always, um, whenever you enter something, a hashtag or a pound sign, that's considered a note. It won't run that for you. So you can do install packages to get everything set up. And the packages you want to start off with tidyverse. You want to put that in quotes. You can click it right here and then click run. I'm not going to do that just because I have already done so. If you have not done so. So you're going to want to continue doing that. Install packages. We're going to be using a lot of the Dippler package, a little bit of the ggplot package, and the same with the nflreadr package, which is definitely a beneficial package to understand and learn. Um, and I'll show you why. So install packages right there. Each one you'll have to go back and click run. This is if you have not done so. After downloading, after that, you want to go into your library and pull those packages. So after doing that, you want to type in library and tidyverse. That'll pull that. Same with Dippler. You can basically um doing it all over again. Library, ggplot, go back, click run, and then the nflreadr package. And here's what the nflreadr package looks like. So to create a data frame, just to show it off, we'll do PvP. It also stands for play by play. And you click load, and it shows you what package they come from: draft picks, combine statistics, PvP for load play by play, player statistics, player rosters. It has all different, I guess, sub packages of what you're able to work with. For this instance, we're going to do next gen stats and fantasy football. So next gen stats preview. So our new data frame is going to be next generation stats or next gen stats preview. Load next gen stats right here, 2023. And you have 527 observations of 29 different variables. So it has 2023 season, different weeks, I think that's I'm not quite sure, but week 17, the most recent game between the Browns and the Jets. It should have only quarterbacks for next gen stats. It has average intended air yards, but it also has like counting stats like passing touchdowns, completions. And we're going to be using this statistic right here: completion percentage above expectation. So that's our preview. We're just going to do our create a new data frame. So that's our preview for that. We want to create a new data frame. Load next gen stats 2023, same thing. And then for Dippler, or to go to the next step, hold down Shift Command M, and that right here is a pipe operator, which also just stands for and then. For a pipe operator, for mine, it looks like that. For other people, it might look like that. It's all the same thing, as long as you use one and just stick with it. I'm not quite sure how I got it to become this again, um, but it all means the same thing. It just means and then. So to do that, what we want to do is have it be a season average of all the quarterbacks. That way, Baker Mayfield doesn't show up here 16 times and Joe Flacco doesn't pop up like 5 times. We just want one. We just want to figure out like the averages. So we do group by player display name. And then for the pipe operator. And then we're going to summarize it to figure out the averages. So completion percentage above expectation. There equals mean. And then you're going to type it again, but we could just copy and paste it. And there might be, I don't think in this instance, there are non-applicables, but just to make sure, we can just do comma na.rm equals true. Make sure we don't have any non-applicables to throw anything off. Let's get down there. And then what we also want to do is to show the amount of weeks that a quarterback has played in. That way we're able to, it's an easy viewpoint to compare. So we can just do comma, hit enter to go on to the next line. Oh, come on. What's that loading? There we go. Weeks equals n, which stands for the number. And there you go. Should work. So next gen stats. You have 61 quarterbacks. Sounds about right. Their completion percentage above expectation and the amount of weeks that they've played in. So Andy Dalton has played in 1 week. That 1 week he filled in for Bryce Young. And then we have quarterbacks that have played 16 weeks. I don't think anybody has played the full 17 so far. This is before Saturday night's game. So to take a step further is let's slim this down just so we can take out these quarterbacks that, you know, we don't need to figure out. Like, we don't need to see what Brian Hoyer is doing. Nobody's going to draft him for fantasy or anything like that. So do another step, shift command M. We could do is filter weeks greater than 5. Let's just do 5. See what that's like. And then we just slimmed it down to, I think it was whatever it was. I think it was 61 to 38, which makes a lot of sense now. You still have Daniel Jones in there, Jimmy Garoppolo, completion percentage above expectation, Kyler Murray at the very bottom, unfortunately, and then Jake Browning making a rush for that. So that is kind of how we do that for right then and there for next gen stats. Just simple stuff to just figure out what you want to look at and slimming down the observations. Now, what we can do is fantasy football preview. Fantasy football opportunity is the package we're going to be using, 2023. You see you have a lot here. You have different positions, different players, Sam Howell, Jahan Dotson, obviously different positions, they'll have different statistics for different columns, like pass attempts for Howell. And then Stephon Diggs, reception attempts, just targets that you got from Josh Allen, all these different statistics. And since we're using quarterbacks in the other data frame, we're going to be doing statistics for quarterbacks here, and we're going to use total fantasy points expected. So, and let's just just a preview for the data frame. Creating a data frame. Preview. Creating. Just for anybody who's kind of lost in what they're with their code. So fantasy football. Creating a new data frame. Load. Fantasy football opportunity 2023. And then we're going to be basically doing the same exact thing. The pipe operator right there, group by. And since this, we're grouping it by player, but it isn't under player display name. I believe it's under just player name or full name. That's what it is. So full name right there. And we also want to see their position to make matters easier when we're filtering out the next step. So we're going to do the same thing, summarize. And total fantasy points expected right there equals mean. And for summarize, you could do max, minimum. If there are other instances you can, or another examples you could use. But right now we're just going to use mean. Do the same thing right there. And then get rid of anything that doesn't show anything. Lay down arms slash shoes. I think it's like the same thing right there. And now we are going to filter again to make sure. So from this data frame, we filtered to show only quarterbacks that had that played a certain amount of weeks. For this, we just need to show quarterbacks. Like we don't need to see AJ Brown and his receiving statistics. So position and quarterback. Exactly, he put him right there. For you need to throw in a second equals to make that right there. It's football position. Let's see. So what I changed was that it wasn't working. Sometimes the lines of where the code is does matter. So what I did, this line of code right here was right here, but I changed it. So what I did was just copy and pasted, entered it right after here, pipe operator, and then just summarized it last. So you don't have to put the comma here and go on to the next line. With that, you create this data frame, you run it. Fantasy football should be 77 observations of 3 columns. Here you have their full names, position, total fantasy points expected right here. Jalen Hurts and more mobile quarterbacks that'll get you rushing touchdowns are at the top. And you have like quarterbacks like Kyle Allen at the bottom, which make total sense. So now we need a new data frame. Just because we have our fantasy football data frame and we have our next gen, and now we need to make a new one to create to have the new data frame consist of everything with the completion percentage next to the fantasy points expected or expected fantasy points. So let's create a combined data frame. We want to do left join, which is using the Dippler package. Let's do next gen stats. comma, fantasy football. So we're not doing the preview, it's just the our new created data frames. And what we want to do is by equals C, and it's player display name. And then equals full name. Just because full name right here, player display name right here. So we want those to be matched up together. So combined data frame 38, which makes sense. It should be the lower number. The player display name, completion percentage above expectation, the amount of weeks they've played in position, obviously, and then total fantasy points expected. So that was using Dippler and Tidyverse, and now we're going to use ggplot. Our plot, ggplot, data equals, and now we're using our combined data frame. And we're going to put AES. AES is just being able to visualize everything that we need to. X equals, let's do completion percentage above expectation. Y equals total fantasy. Let's make sure everything's typed incorrectly. And let's run it, see what it looks like. I typed that incorrectly. Total fantasy points. Yep, I forgot the expectancy. EXP. Now we have it. So that just gave you great showing right there. You want to make sure that the total fantasy points expected is typed incorrectly or is case sensitive, and also if you spell something incorrectly, it won't run. You could do spaces wherever, like it isn't space sensitive. Like if you want to run it like that, if you want to, don't do that because it'll put a period, but you get the point right there. So let's put in our points. So geom point right there. Let's see what it looks like. So we have our points. If you want to click zoom, it shows what the plot looks like zoomed up, of course. I don't know if it showed for you guys, but if you click zoom, it should show on your computer. So geom text. If we're going to do geom text to put in the players' names in next to geom point, you have to figure out a label. So put in comma after here, and then label equals, and then it is player display name right here. So if you click zoom, it shows again, Kyler Murray on the left, Jake Browning, Kirk Cousins on the right, Jalen Hurts on the top. So it has their names right on top of their points. Some people like both. Some people just prefer the text. Some people just prefer the points, especially if there's a lot of points. For this instance, I think we're just going to get rid of the G on point just to show the text, just to look a little cleaner and nicer. And right there, if you zoom in, it looks, I'd say I'd prefer just the text. So since we have a chart, let's throw in a title, and we label our axis. So title, let's do, you have to put this in quotes for it to work. NFL QBs completion percentage above expectation. versus total fantasy points expected. Yeah. And then we're also able to, like I mentioned, rename our X and Y axis. So X, you can put CPIE. I wouldn't recommend doing so just because people won't really know what that is. Completion percentage above expectation. And then people will see this, and then they'll know what CPIE stands for. So Y, and then total fantasy points expected. See how that works. Well, voila, if you click zoom, you have the new title, you have the new labeled axis, and you can also throw a caption. This is a great place to where you want to throw in credit to where you found the data. Data from NFL Fast-R. And then a lot of people will, you should definitely give yourself credit because you created the data frame, you created the graph. So a lot of people will put in like, this is where they put in their Twitter, just like right there, just mine visual by Ethan Man, by Ethan Man 02. Put that in there. Click zoom, it'll show again. Data from NFL Fast-R visual by Ethan Man at Ethan Man 02. I'm sure if you search on Twitter, you'll see a lot of those. So the main purpose of this was trying to figure out like if there's a correlation between the two. Obviously, from looking at this graph, there isn't a great correlation, if not anything, just looking at it. But let's just, for one extra purpose, let's just try to see if there is a correlation, what that correlation might be. Finding a correlation. And to do that, correlation. It's gonna be kind of like you're creating a new data frame right there. So type in correlation and type in core. And then you want to put in your new data frame. And then put the money signal and then completion percentage above expectation. Put a comma. Same thing, combine data frame, money signal, total fantasy points expected on that. See your values 0.264. So that does not show really much of a correlation, if not anything. For like, if you want to look at like just off the top of my head, maybe something like or maybe average completed air yards, that'll probably show more of a correlation. Just trying to give you guys something to work with to just play around with, just to figure out if there's a correlation. Definitely use different variables for that. And that is kind of what we have shown so far. So there really isn't much of a correlation, but it gives you an opportunity to create a data frame, manipulate the data to slim everything down to just show. I mean, for this, you slimmed it down from 527 quarterbacks to 38, and then you slimmed it down from 5,154 overall players to 77 just quarterbacks. And then figuring out what variables you need. You could do another thing just off the top of my head, maybe just show the amount of weeks that they've played in. So you can do color equals weeks. And that before running it, the names should change, I believe. Yeah, so the names will change. So Kyler Murray, it's more of a navy blue, I guess. And that is just because he hasn't played that much. He's played, I think, like 4 or 5 weeks, or it shouldn't be 4 or 5, it should be 6. And then light blue should be Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, quarterbacks that have played all their games so far. You can also do size. That doesn't look that great. Definitely don't really recommend that. Um, Size would work great if you're doing a GM point, which we were doing, but we got rid of the point just to throw in the text. So let's just stick with color. And it gives the reader, it shows there on the right, on it gives them a little key to what the weeks stand for and why there's some color in there. So that's kind of just what I've shown so far using Tidyverse, Dippler, ggplot through the nflreadr package just to figure out if there's a correlation. I know we talked about in our last meeting trying to figure out some statistics to what you look for when drafting a position of need in fantasy football: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. What statistics you look for, and trying to figure out a correlation and trying to explain and base it off that. So that's kind of what I've shown you so far. Hopefully you guys are able to do so. If you have any questions, just reach out, and hope you guys learn something today.